You want to get into this in front of the kids? I'll get into this.
The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy.
You are listening to Canary Cry News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Cry News Talk. Today is July 20th, 2020. This is episode 221, and this week, new Waccine Order. And you know me, I'm not your echo chamber, but I am your best buddy, Basil.
And this is Gonz. And welcome back to another show. Sorry for the delay. I feel I have to play this clip to start off the episode.
I can't deal with it right now, Basil.
Because about 38 minutes ago, you said, all right, let me put on some pants and we'll get going. And you disappeared for 38 minutes. I was sitting there. I was like the one of them people sitting there twiddling their fingers, just waiting and thinking, what?
You're one of those waiting people?
Were you knitting your own pants? What were you doing?
Well, I started off by putting on some pants and then realized that I hadn't eaten all day, and that, this was in the afternoon, it was like 2, almost 3. And I decided that if I tried to go on and do a show live and deal with you and read about all the nonsense in the world and try to have something halfway logical to say about things, that I would need some sustenance. So I ate a snack or two and, just meandered around. The cats got in a fight. I had to play had to do some conflict resolution. A lot goes on over here, Gonz. I know it seems like such an easy job we have, but there's a lot of stuff going on. Anyways, sorry for the delay. But I'm here now, and I'm ready, and it's going to be even better now because I got to have some calories.
I'm concerned less about myself and more for the people who are been sitting there waiting and who want like a full show, but now they're not going to get one.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Gonz? If you're trying to play one parent against the other and turn the people against me, I'll play that game. I
Can't deal with it right now, Basil.
No, I won't play that game, but I'm glad we're here now. I'm glad everybody else is here now. I saw in the chat somebody's at the DMV, so we got people all over the world in different, government buildings watching the show. They better watch out.
Yeah, well, maybe we should watch out too. Let's get into it. Do you want to do this? We got a couple flippy updates listed here, but do you want to just do one?
Now, this is yes. So.
You want to skip the other one?
We'll do this on the show. I purposefully think we need to keep the flippy updates down to one per show because number one, robotics, we move faster than robotics. So we always need to save one for the next show. Also, there's the flippy updates are such hard-hitting, earth-shattering news. I don't think we can... I don't think it's responsible to be subjecting everybody to more than one flippy update per show.
Okay.
So
I've been waiting to do this one particular flippy update that you're going to skip over for like 3 episodes now. So.
Well, why are you waiting to do flippy updates? That's my thing, man.
I know, but this is one that I've been wanting to do because it's a useful one to me. But forget
so you're talking about this
and
second
his
one
needs. Here? All right, what do you got?
Are you talking about the
flippy update?
Do you want fries with that?
freenews.live? Is that the one you want me to do?
You can do either one.
I'm going to do this one. freenews.live or live, who knows?
All right, so now you're doing the one I wanted to do.
Guns, you don't get to do flippy update. This is my thing. You can't take it. You don't see me doing Nephilim updates and stepping on your turf.
Yeah,
this is my turf.
Yeah, but I also don't have one every episode.
Okay, Guns, I don't know what's going on with you.
I'm really annoyed that I had to sit for 38 minutes to wait for you to put on pants is what it is.
Oh, don't you even start. You want to get into this in front of the kids? I'll get into this. Okay, freenews.live.
Okay.
New robotic arm can thread a needle and untangle wires. That's right. Researchers at MIT introduced a robotic arm that can take on routine tasks that only human beings could do before. For this, the device was equipped with dozens of sensors. All right, for those who don't know, Flippy is the colloquial name we have for our beloved disembodied robot arm. And, you know Flippy, he's coming at you. He's taking our jobs, enslaving our children, and flirting with our spouses. And we use it as a proxy conversation to see how robots, A, will replace us, B, are sneaking their way into our lives as we speak. And so we got to keep an eye open. The article continues. The Massachusetts Institute of Technology Laboratory of Computer Science and Artificial Intelligence has unveiled a new project, a two-finger robotic arm that can subtly manipulate objects such as cables, threads, and much more. Researchers were inspired by the arrangement of human fingers. They watched as people unravel the wires and tie knots. And the article goes on, but more or less, Gons, for those who have not upgraded into the Tim Cook future of wireless AirPods, this Flippy can untangle those headphone wires for you. The children, the kids, they'll never know the pain that was sticking your headphones into your pocket and having it, pulling them out and having them become an untangleable tangle of wires that would take up about 38 minutes to untangle. So there you go, robots helping us out. And of course, with that kind of skill, we're doomed. We're doomed. There's no other option but to allow these robots into our house.
Now, I was a sound tech for a church for many years, and I had to untangle many cables. Probably, I'm going to guess in the tens of thousands. And I'm not convinced that these two little robot hands they got going would be able to untangle a true wire. To the extent
so
of,
you doubt?
I doubt.
Do we need to do a? Do we need to have a contest? What was that? What was that old American folk tale with the machine cutting down trees faster than the Paul Bunyan, right? Paul Bunyan. We need to have a Paul Bunyan contest, Gons, between you and this cord untangling robot.
Yeah, get a 50-foot XLR cable that is tangled in a mess. Get this little two-pronged, robot hand action, and let's see what happens. I still think I can beat it.
The gauntlet has been thrown down.
Yep.
Come at him, Flippy.
Yeah, but
prove yourself.
I'm sure, while we're doing it, it's going to upgrade itself to have 6 fingers on each hand, and it'll go all Nephilim on me. Anyway, what were you saying?
Automatic updates. I was going to say I'm a little worried right now because there's only 66 viewers on Twitch, and we can't have the number sitting at that specific number. So head on over to twitch.tv/Canary Cry Radio if you're watching live. Help us get past the 66. So, all right, what's next, Gonzo?
We got a couple very quick updates here.
We interrupt this broadcast to give you a brief update. By the end of this timely interruption, you will be thoroughly updated.
First one, I saw this being shared around. It could be a photoshopped image. I don't know. But allegedly, there's an image from a protest in 1981. And I believe it because there's Reagan posters and stuff in the background. But there's a guy holding a poster that says, "Dr. Fauci, you are killing us." Again, back in 1981.
Whoa.
Yeah. So, or maybe 91, but I don't know, maybe 81. Yeah, I think it was around the 81 doesn't sound right to me. I feel like this is
that sounds right to me.
Does it sound right? Anyway,
yeah.
I thought it was interesting because Dr. Fauci killing people with science for 30-something years.
What was the protest for? Do you remember?
I don't know.
I'm not sure. I guess remember is not the right word.
No, this is before I was born. If it was 81. No,
it's a tweet.
I don't have. It's a tweet, so I'm not exactly sure. That's why I'm a little skeptical, but I'm not surprised, and I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever. Dr. Fauci's been in the spotlight longer than we think. We forget. especially us younger folk. We don't remember because we weren't born yet.
He was the man during the AIDS crisis in the 80s, late 70s, 80s, on into the 90s. I found it was interesting on this tweet here from General Yvonne Smith. I'm not sure who that is. Me Think Free is his Twitter handle. That's pretty funny. It doesn't just show up with the picture. It says the following media includes potentially sensitive content.
Oh.
And you have to click view, and it's just a picture of a protest with a guy holding a sign. So
Twitter doesn't like you seeing
really, it. Yeah, they are really getting pretty a liberal use of the protective nature of Twitter viewing photos.
Yeah, and we noticed that we reported on last week how Google is starting to lock down on conspiracy theorists about the virus and all that. So I'm sure that's part of the excuse here to just lock down
Fake
even
news.
further with all these platforms. The other quick update I wanted to point out is there was a little news clip that was shared of Brad Hazard. He's the New South Wales Health Minister over at 7news.com.au. And this video here, that I was trying to find the source video for this. Always difficult to nail down the exact source video because you don't know exactly when and all that kind of stuff. But I thought I'd play this because it has an, like we talked about in the last episode, the conspiracy singularity, this conspiracy theory that the New World Order is happening, the idea that that's just a complete wild, crazy thing to think. Well, not according to Brad Hazard, the New South Wales Health Minister.
Still have transmission from time to time, and that's just the way it is. We've got to accept that this is the New World Order. We've got to accept that this is the New World Order.
There you go. We have to accept that this is the New World Order.
And that's interesting, too, because there is no defense about the use of that phrase now, because that phrase doesn't even really work in the parlance of a normal man trying to say, hey, this is the new normal. This is just the way things are. This is, he's trying to say like, hey, sorry, this is just the way it is now. But to purposefully use the term New World Order.
Yeah. And
he's in there. He's in the club.
Yeah. And the thing, when I first started doing all this research and looking all this stuff up back in like I think it was 2010 when I really got into it. I was already surprised back in 2010, that's 10 years ago, how so much of the politicians and people were saying New World Order just out in the public. And still people were like, oh, it's just a conspiracy theory. And it's like, well, no, it's not. These people are saying it. Just out in the open, but I guess
right. And it's not a normal thing to say. It's obviously a term that they're inducted into and are encouraged to use the phrase, because nobody would say the New World Order in the context like it's just not normal speech. There's no way to defend against the weirdness of using that term.
Yeah.
All
right.
Okay.
Here's
an interesting little update, Gons. I've mentioned in the past few shows that we've been really knocked down the charts on Twitch, and it didn't really make any sense because we have more viewers than a lot of the people ahead of us.
Yeah.
But the past few shows, we will just sit at number 17 on the list. We used to be at number 2, but the past few shows, we'll just sit at 17 and we won't move. I don't know what the deal is with 17, and how we keep exactly finding our place in our way to that exact place every show, but I think we're getting a little bit of fudging from Twitch over there, just keeping us right at 17.
Are we at 17 again?
Mm-hmm. Oh. We're just sitting there at 17 past 3 shows.
Oh, nice, fun.
It's weird.
Okay,
yeah.
All right, a little Yee update here.
Please rise for our national anthem.
All right, that's enough of that.
Yee? Who's Yee?
Yee, yay, whatever. Yay, you, yay, you.
Oh my gosh. You're talking about future President Kanye West.
Your future president.
Good one.
abcnews.go.com. Quote, everybody that has a baby gets $1 million, Kanye West says at first campaign rally.
Wow, that's one way to fix the population problem.
We just need $12.8 quadrillion. Kanye West kicked off his first presidential campaign event in North Charleston, South Carolina, Sunday evening, a day before the state's deadline to file signatures as an independent candidate. And West invited a couple of young women from the audience to speak on stage about issues that concern them, such as education inequality and police brutality. He then launched into a speech that touched on a wider range of topics, from his battle with opioids to his business dealing with Adidas, before elaborating on his pro-life stance. He broke into tears, talking about what he said was his father's desire to abort him and his wife having their first child, quote, "even when I didn't want to. I almost killed my daughter. I love my daughter. God wants us to create," said West, who has 4 children with Kim Kardashian West. No more plan B, plan A, he said, to a mixed response from the audience. West clarified that he thinks abortion should be legal, but that there should be more support for those who need it. The maximum, quote, "the maximum increase would be everybody that has a baby gets $1 million or something in that range," said West.
Wow.
West also said that marijuana should be free and took questions from the audience before the hour-long event ended. South Carolina requires 10,000 signatures to get on the presidential ballot as an independent candidate. And there's a second story here from Palmetto Politics, or the postandcourier.com. Kanye West fails to submit petition signatures needed to get on SC presidential ballot. So didn't make it on the South Carolina ballot there, according to these reports. But I don't know. What do you think? Do you think he's picking the right issues to start off his campaign
considering that
on?
he can't actually run for this election, I think he's fine just saying whatever he wants to say.
Whatever he wants.
What he's doing is he's starting the ball rolling. You know, you got to start taking stances and laying down your platform 4 years in advance, and that's pretty interesting. That's what he's doing. He was wearing what looks like to be some sort of body armor.
Yeah.
He's like wearing it's not quite a bulletproof vest proper, but it is a body armor.
Yeah.
During this event. So he must have been worried about some anti-Kanye political activists. I don't know if anybody feels strongly enough about Kanye running for president to warrant him wearing body armor, but you know what? It made him look pretty cool.
Did you see any of the footage that people were posting from the event?
No.
Oh, you didn't? Okay. It was pretty interesting. It was some mixed response from the crowd. And he just keeps going.
I'm sure.
There was one where he mentioned something, and the people filming were like, "Okay, we're leaving." So no, I don't know if it hit the right way that he wanted to, but
he's a complicated candidate, very complicated. He's if you try to break it down, I mean, free weed and $1 million for everybody who has a baby, but also against abortion morally. He's not towing any party line that I know of.
He's making up his own party line. I think that's the future here. Is people
Which, that's hey, I respect anybody who does that.
Yeah.
Or I respect the act of them doing that. They don't gain my whole respect as an entity. But okay. All right, Gons. Well, there's some pretty big stuff going on. Yeah. We should start right at the top here with news.yahoo.com. And this is Epstein's got some stuff going on.
Epstein didn't kill himself.
Well, Epstein adjacent, but yeah.
From the grave, Epstein's got stuff going on.
Allegedly from the grave.
News.yahoo.com. Esther said, now this is crazy, Guns. This happened yesterday.
Yeah.
And really blew my mind. I was trying to take the weekend off from doing internet stuff, but when this happened, I just got loads of messages from people. I had to check it out. The title of the article is Esther Salas Case. Main suspect in attack on judge's family found dead. Okay, so
did they change the title of the story here?
It looks like it.
Okay, let me refresh. We're doing a live refresh to see, because what I see is Esther Salas, body found as police probe attack on judge's families. It's not that big of a change, but
it's a whole thing. We're jumping a little bit ahead in the the timeline, but I'm sure it will explain everything here. The article reads, the FBI has named the suspect in the deadly attack on a federal judge's family and says he is now dead. It identified the man as Roy Den Hollander. No more details were given, but sources told U.S. media he had died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The son of Judge Esther Salas was killed in the attack in New Jersey on Sunday, and her husband was badly hurt. Oh, so the husband didn't die, apparently. The gunman, dressed as a FedEx delivery man, had opened fire at their home, police said. A package addressed to Judge Salas was found inside his car, sources said. The naming of the suspect was carried in a statement from the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of New Jersey. The New York Times said Den Hollander was a self-described anti-feminist lawyer who had sued nightclubs over ladies' night discounts, the federal government over a law protecting women from violence, and university over women's studies courses. Wow, this is taking some real turns. Hold on. This is wild. They are not connecting this to Epstein in this article. They changed it. Again, changed it right out from under us. We need to get a different article here, Guns. Well, I guess we'll just tell the story because we don't have the article right in front of us. So, for those who may not have heard, Judge Salas was recently given charge over cases that included or were connected to Deutsche Bank, which should ring some bells for everybody, and Jeffrey Epstein. Considering now these cases were specifically linked to some money laundering aspects of what Epstein was doing, connected to the whole Epstein story. But since there's all these cases are sort of separated out. Long story short, after just a few days after Judge Salas was given charge over these cases, this man showed up at her home dressed as a FedEx delivery driver and shot her husband and her son. And then this is what the update is about. Now, apparently, they found or allegedly have found the perpetrator of the attack and are now going a long way to connect him to being, just a crazy right-wing extremist here. So let's continue with this article. The New York Times and Den Hollander was I already read that. He also brought a lawsuit before Judge Salas in 2015 challenging the male-only military draft, the Times said. The suspects, how is that anti-feminist?
I don't know. They're just throwing everything the feminists out there right now,
they should, be happy to get equality for women in the draft. Continuing, the suspect's body was discovered near Liberty in New York, Sullivan County, about 130 miles from the crime scene, according to CBS News. The motive for the attack was unclear. A local mayor and family friend said Judge Salas had received threats in the past. Friends of the family told U.S. media that Judge Salas's 20-year-old son, Daniel Anderl, a student, opened the door at his family home in North Brunswick at about 1700 local time on Sunday and was fatally shot. The judge's husband, Mark Anderl, 63, was then shot several times. Mr. Anderl, who works as a criminal defense lawyer, was taken to hospital and was in critical but stable condition in hospital, family said. Okay, so we know that this article was written by somebody in the United Kingdom. And talking about how they are in hospital. Quote, "We don't know if she was the target or he was the target," Carlos Salas, the judge's older brother, told the New York Times. Groundbreaking judge. North Brunswick Mayor Francis Womack, who is a friend of the Salas family, told ABC News that as a judge, Esther Salas had threats from time to time, but everyone is saying that recently there had not been any. Judge Salas serves on the federal bench in New Jersey. She is the first Hispanic woman to serve as a federal judge in New Jersey. Daniel Anderl, the couple's only son, was due to resume university at the Catholic University of America in Washington in the autumn. In 2018 profile in New Jersey Monthly, Judge Salas said she thought her son would someday pursue a career in law like his parents. Quote, "I don't want to dissuade him, but I was pulling for a doctor," she told the magazine. "He's been arguing with us. He could talk, practicing his advocacy skills." Very interesting that this article does not mention any connection to the Epstein and Deutsche Bank cases.
Yeah, that's crazy.
What do you think, Gons? Yeah, it's wild. I mean, that was the biggest thing that made any sense. And I gotta say, this is pretty fishy. As I noted to you before the show, Gons, this is not this story, but the original story of the cases being handed over to Judge Salas, and then her family being attacked like this. This is a line in the sand as far as the normies are concerned. If you try to tell your normie friend that, hey, this Epstein thing is sketchy, this judge took over the case, and then, days later, her family was gunned down in their house. That seems kind of fishy, right? And if a normie says, no, that's totally normal, a horrible thing, but it couldn't possibly have to do with, a hit concerning one of the world's most influential banks and most prolific elite blackmailer working for intelligence agencies all across the world. It couldn't have nothing to do with that. This is one of the cases where the normie is a lost cause. There's you just need to walk away because it's so obvious, so blatant, and any attempt to try to shift it from that story is just brainwashing at its finest.
Did they say how old Hollander was in this article?
The alleged shooter.
The alleged shooter, yeah.
Let me go back to it here. Did. I think they said he was 60 or something.
I thought that was the husband.
Could have been.
Judge's husband, Mark Androl, 63.
Yeah, I'm not seeing an age for Roy Den Hollander.
Found a link here, and I'll try to share it. This is from 2008. Lawyer files anti-feminist suit against Colombia. And there's a picture here of a guy that says it's Roy Den Hollander in the photograph from his website. So I don't know if it's the same guy, but I mean, they said it was a guy with anti-feminist. So
yeah, I'm sorry. What was the first part about that again?
It's a link from cityroom.blogs.newyorktimes.com from August 18th, 2008. And there's a photo here of Roy Den Hollander, allegedly.
In what context? What are they saying about him?
He's the anti-feminist. The lawyer files anti-feminist suit against Colombia. It's got to be the same guy, right? The anti-feminist guy.
Yeah, of course.
But he looks pretty old in this picture from 2008. So I don't know how old this guy was, but it just seems very, this type of thing, man. People are going to do all their research and come up with who this guy was and what he was into, and easily could be part of a.
Yeah, I don't buy it for a second, man.
But I mean, I'm saying
I don't even buy it. I think this guy, I mean, of course, why would he kill himself? What would be the point of that? He got away, he escaped. Everybody, for the day, they're saying, we have no idea who he was. He's just like a FedEx person. Why would he go home and kill himself? I think, the reason why he allegedly went home and killed himself is because if this was a hit, I don't know, maybe because this judge was in charge of prosecuting one of the most influential banks and one of the most connected elite blackmailers on the planet. Maybe the hit had something to do with that. And then to keep people from asking questions, just say, oh, no, don't worry. It's just this crazy right-wing guy and he shot himself. So stop asking questions. It's all taken care of.
Of course, but I'm saying
stop looking into it.
The profile of the person who allegedly shot up the house and killed, the son and everything is quoted as saying, that women's studies is a bastion of bigotry against men. And that women's studies programs demonizes men and exalts women in order to justify discrimination against men based on collective guilt. So pretty, and I think there's like some talk in here. I'm not reading the whole thing here, but something about religious views and stuff. It's almost like the TV shows where like the crazy guy who shoots up people is like the religious right-wing extremist type of dude. It's like a picture perfect type of guy for that. It fits the profile of that TV show. I guess handle of a guy that would go up and shoot somebody, a judge. But yeah, of course, this is...
Well, he didn't, but what doesn't fit is he didn't kill the judge. He shot a couple of, men. So if he's so anti-feminist...
Yeah, he's so anti-feminist, he killed the guy and the husband.
Men in the family.
Yeah.
Somebody was at Dento being asked, has the judge ruled against the banker? Is it ongoing? Or is it
I don't think
an
it
appeal?
even...
No, it was these cases were newly transferred over to Salas.
Right.
Just about a week before.
Yeah.
And so, you could imagine that the cases were transferred to Salas, and, maybe she was approached by a representative of Deutsche Bank or, Epstein-connected folk and said, okay, we look forward to a favorable ruling.
Yeah.
And she might say, no, sirree, Bob, I'm here for justice.
And yeah, maybe that's what it is. It's a warning to either her. Well, they were trying to take her out. So I don't know if it's directly a warning to her or to whoever decides to take this case. If you don't do the right thing, we'll kill you and your family. And this is like the power of the shadow people. You can call them whatever you want. The deep state. I know they got different names for it, but it's these banker types, these central banker types. I mean, Deutsche Bank is at the center of so much corruption, money laundering, but also they helped Hitler. They admitted to helping Hitler consolidate some of his power. And, bankers...
Deutsche Bank also connected with some Trump scams.
Yep. And,
he owed them something like $1 billion or something, if I remember.
Yeah.
Those numbers might be wrong, but yeah.
I don't know if it was $1 billion, but it was a lot of money.
Wrapped up with Deutsche Bank as well.
Yeah. And bankers, they are at the center of pretty much most of the wars, especially since 1913. And the founding of the Federal Reserve, all the wars in the United States anyway that have where the United States was involved, bankers, central bankers have funded both sides, and so you have to keep in mind that this is not just some random act here. And again, like you said, if your normie friends can't get on board with the fact that maybe something is up, maybe something weird is going on here, you just have no hope in terms of. Even there's different layers to all this with truthers and all that kind of stuff. I get it. Some people think that they figured out all the truth with the flat Earth topic or whatever it is. I know there's different angles to this, but there's like your tertiary like initial, hey, the world's not as it seems through the news media, and of course a lot of people have realized that in the last 4 years or whatever, but. Man, if you're still stuck beyond that, it's like, man, this type of story doesn't wake you up even a little bit. And I feel like it does it has woken up a lot of people, but what do you do? What do you do to protect these people? What do you do to, try to get some resemblance of justice, especially in the United States here, where we're supposed to be this bastion of justice and law and all this kind of stuff. And when all that is undermined by acts like this, it just, man, it really bothers me that there's nothing more that we can do and tangibly, other than obviously, spread the message of the truth of Jesus Christ, because again, the war is spiritual. You want your eternal address to be safe because we're not trying to peddle fear here. But other people will, other people that are into the conspiracy stuff will push fear. But that's the big difference with a show like ours. We try to maintain a level head and try to maintain a little joy and some perspective on all this because, man, a 20-year-old kid is dead, allegedly. We don't know for sure, obviously, with any of this stuff. But given that the shooting happened, a 20-year-old kid is dead, and that really just infuriates me that, there's not more to be done to stop this type of act. And no matter who's behind it. It doesn't matter if it was just a crazy guy, rogue guy, or obviously, as it seems to be, a lot more going on. Even with the history of this guy and the Salas, Judge Salas going back who knows how long. And it's easy to get guys who have a grudge or have some kind of grudge against a judge or whatever to, man, I would not want to be a judge in this country moving forward. You know, it takes a certain type of brave soul to do that, because you're just putting your life on the line when it comes to all this. Because if you think about the entire Epstein thing, the whole thing is based on U.S. politicians and celebrities and all this being blackmailed. You know, that somebody else is controlling the narrative, the entire perspective of the entire country, really based on some blackmailish type stuff. So when there's a possibility of some of that being exposed, heads got to roll. And that it really bothers me that that's kind of where we're at here. And it's sad that people will still not realize this, the reality of what's going on here and the spiritual war behind it, especially because, you know, this is just another one of those dark things that's out there that happens. And you know, there's not much else we can do about it at the moment. And you know what, one thing let me just rant about one more thing. I had somebody on Twitter say, like, you know, this proves Q, and was all like pumped about Q on this particular situation. And yeah, that bothered me again, because it's like, hey, you know, if Q was legit, why didn't he like warn? If he knew exactly what was going on, couldn't he like warn some people? You know, but I guess Q has said like, oh, there's going to be casualties, we're at war, all this kind of stuff. So maybe that's the the confirmation that Q is real, is that a 20-year-old kid is shot dead. Wonderful.
Right.
So anyway, sorry, rant over at the moment.
Yeah, good rant.
Yeah.
But there's another more entertaining little update to the Epstein thing over here at ctvnews.ca.
Yes. And the headline here reads, New York restaurant owner sets fire to table where Jeffrey Epstein... I wanted to
hear the Epstein jingle again.
Oh, you did? Okay, well, Here we go.
Epstein didn't kill himself.
There we go.
New York restaurant owner sets fire to table where Jeffrey Epstein, Harvey Weinstein used to sit. Man, we're going to be burning a lot of things probably if we just contact trace Jeffrey Epstein's whereabouts over the last few years and burn all of it. The New York restaurant where Jeffrey Epstein and Harvey Weinstein were frequent visitors decided to start a new chapter by lighting the two disgraced moguls' regular table on fire. Zach Erdem, the owner of 75 Main in Southampton, said he wanted to erase their names from his restaurant's history. Epstein, who was awaiting trial on federal charges accusing him of sexually abusing underage girls, was found unresponsive in his cell at New York's Metropolitan Correctional Center in August of 2019. Man, we're almost a year since Epstein allegedly killed himself.
I like the description of a dead man as unresponsive.
The clone was unresponsive when they poked him with a stick. Law enforcement sources told CNN he died by suicide. Wow. You know, that alone just should make everybody question the reality of the situation. Law enforcement sources told CNN. Why would you tell CNN anything? Weinstein, a former Hollywood producer, was sentenced to blah, blah, blah. All right. I mean, yeah, that's kind of the story here. We don't need to get into all the...
Yeah, guy burned stable.
Taking
action.
Taking action. I don't know what took him so long, but, you know, maybe he could have done it a little while ago to get people, you know, back when people weren't locked in their homes and couldn't go to restaurants.
Yeah, that's a good point. Why now?
Yeah, maybe
earlier?
He's got to keep himself in the headlines, because, you know, they're destroying the small businesses.
Oh,
so this is a good way to get
a little business bump here.
Yeah,
during quarantine.
Yeah,
additional lockdowns.
Yeah, so maybe get him back into public consciousness, whatever.
Right.
Okay.
All right.
Enough of that. We got a lot of Waccine updates. What you got?
Yeah, I'm experiencing another example of how I just can't win, Gons. People yell at me for ranting. People yell at me for letting you rant. I don't understand. All right, let's talk about some Waccines.
Waccine.
Okay, let's start over here at theguardian.com. The article is headlined, Oxford Coronavirus Vaccine Triggers Immune Response. Trial Shows. News. The article, let's make sure I can get the whole article here. Oh, yeah, that's a whole article. Here we go. Hopes for a vaccine to address the global spread of coronavirus have been raised after Oxford University's experimental version was revealed to be safe and to generate a strong immune response in the people who volunteered to help trial it. After intensive research, Professor Sarah Gilbert from Oxford's Jenner Institute said they were more than happy with the first results, which showed good immunity after a single dose of the vaccine. Quote, "We're really pleased that it seems to be behaving just as we thought it would do. We have quite a lot of experience of using this technology to make other vaccines, so we knew what we expected to see, and that's what we have seen." Great quote there.
Super
We're very
awesome
pleased
analysis.
to see what we thought we were going to see, which we've seen before, but now we see it again, and we're pleased to see it. The Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, called the results very positive news, adding, "There are no guarantees. We're not there yet, and further trials will be necessary, but this is an important step in the right direction."
They must
The
have
Health Secretary...
They must have changed again, updated the article again, because that's not what I'm seeing. Like, the text is not
Really?
Yeah, the paragraph before with the quote from Sarah Gilbert was the same, but everything around it has been different. So keep reading it. Keep reading.
Well,
I'm
do
just
you
going to
wanna-
leave this up here, and you keep reading yours. And I'll tell you if there's discrepancies.
They've been doing this a lot, man, and they'll change these articles pretty quick too.
Yeah, they do it a lot.
Okay. Well, let's continue then. You let me know if there's anything in that original article that you want to read, and I'll just keep going. The Health Secretary, Matt Hancock, said, very encouraging news. We have already ordered 100 million doses of this vaccine, should it succeed. Again, with this situation where they're prepaying for vaccines that don't even work yet. So, I don't know. Going on. Gilbert and her colleagues, who once said they could have a vaccine by September, will not predict when it might be available. Quote, "None of us have a crystal ball," she said. The lockdown that began in the UK in late March drastically cut the amount of coronavirus circulation, which saved lives but also made it difficult to trial vaccines, which is an interesting conundrum we've seen a few times in the search for a vaccine. Even going so far as some quotes being like, "Oh no, we hope the coronavirus doesn't disappear before we have a vaccine."
I know.
Okay. The results published on Monday of a study involving more than 1,000 healthy volunteers. Interesting. They're vaccinating healthy volunteers, half of which had the vaccine, while the other half were giving meningitis vaccine. In the Lancet Medical Journal are preliminary. The effect of the vaccine was measured by the amount of antibodies and T cells it generates in the blood of the volunteers, not in any response to the virus itself. Large-scale trials have begun in Brazil and South Africa, however, where infection rates are still high, and it will be possible to assess whether vaccinated individuals are less likely to get COVID than others. Let's see. How are vaccines tested? Let's read through this. In the preclinical stage of testing, researchers give the vaccine to animals to see if it triggers an immune response. In phase 1 of clinical testing, the vaccine is given to a small group of people to determine whether it is safe and to learn more about the immune response it evokes. In phase 2, the vaccine is given to hundreds of people so scientists can learn more about its safety and correct dosage. In phase 3, the vaccine is given to thousands of people to confirm its safety, including rare side effects and effectiveness. These trials involve a control group, which is given a placebo. The results were, quote, "a really important milestone on the path to a vaccine," said the study's lead author, Professor Andrew Pollard. They showed the vaccine was very well tolerated, he added. Quote, "We are seeing exactly the sort of immune response we were hoping for, including neutralizing antibodies and T-cell responses, which at least from what we've seen in the animal studies, seem to be those that are associated with protection. The problem is, he said, quote, "We just don't know what level is needed if you meet this virus in the wild to provide protection, so we need to do the clinical trials and to work that out. Hopefully, researchers would find out from the trials to come," added Pollard, "which would help all vaccine developers. Quote, "We don't know what high is. We've got immune responses that we can measure. We can see the virus being neutralized when the antibodies are tested in the laboratory, but we don't know how much is needed. I mean, it's encouraging, but it's only the first milestone in this long path," he said. "Ideally, the vaccine would protect against any infection, but scientists already accept it may reduce the severity of the disease instead, meaning people would be less likely to become very sick and die." What is the current death rate for coronavirus? I haven't gotten an update in a couple weeks.
I haven't looked, but last time I looked, there was like 1,000 deaths or something reported by the CDC. So I don't know what the rate is. I'm just
talking about the current overall death rate of coronavirus. Are we under 1%? At one point, we were significantly under 1%.
Yeah.
So
you know what's interesting is it caught up to the article that I have. Because mine, you started reading the second half of the article when this article here that I have was like the third or fourth paragraph is when you went into the part that matched. And there were some typos in there too. But you know, one of the thing that you mentioned about the 100,000, how they already bought 100,000 doses. There's let's see, what is it? www.gov.uk had a press release. Millions could be vaccinated against COVID-19 as UK secures strong portfolio of promising vaccines. And in this article, it states that the UK has secured early access to 90 million doses of promising coronavirus vaccine candidates. Now, I looked up the population of the UK. It's under 67 million. So are they planning to double dose like half of the population or something? Why are they getting 90 million doses or 100 million doses for that matter?
Yeah, that seems like a lot question
for it's the same thing as like, hey, America has 330 million people. We bought 500 million doses. It's like, why? Why are we doing this?
Yeah, I guess, well, there was that little thing in there that inferred that one dose might not be enough to do it. So some vaccines, you got to get the vaccine and then come back, a couple months later for a booster or something like that. When I went to Africa, I think there was one of those vaccines. I forget what it was. They're like, come back in 3 months and get it again. I'm like, no, thank you. Bye. Okay. So nothing super fancy in there, but just the progression of the vaccines.
Yeah.
Going quicker than anybody ever estimated.
Yeah. And let me, I was going to do this a little later, but I think I'll do it right now. Because you can go to the CDC website here. This is cdc.gov/vaccines/basics/test-approved.html. And again, all these links will be in the episode, canarycrynewstalk.com. But this article is titled Vaccine Testing and the Approval Process. And it goes through the whole process here, and it doesn't give much of a timeline. But down here, there are related topics and resources, vaccine development, testing, and regulation. And you go there, and yes, I'm leaving the CDC website. I get it. They got to tell you this because, they're, hey, we're not really affiliated with these other resources here. But I think it's because this particular website that it takes you to, historyofvaccines.org, gives you this overview of all the stages and all this kind of stuff. And in it talks about the time it takes. Oh gosh, did they change that on me too? Because I had all the timestamps. Okay, exploratory stage. This stage involves basic laboratory research that often lasts 2 to 4 years. Right. So 2 to 4 years for the exploratory stage. Then the preclinical stage often lasts 1 to 2 years. Okay, and then and then it gets into it gets into phase 1, which involves 20 to 80 subjects. Phase 2, which involves 60,000 subjects. Have to include at least 60,000 subjects. And then it goes into phase 4, and 30,000, whatever it is. And there's another FDA. That's according to the CDC. Okay, so we're talking years to take to figure out if it's safe and all that stuff. Now we're pushing it through in what? 6 months? 7, 8 months?
6 months, yeah, right.
And that's the CDC.
And what's strange was that this they mentioned that this the head of the project over there in the UK, the one we just read about, said that they would have it by September, back when they started in March or so.
Yeah.
So they were even claiming that, oh yeah, we can get a vaccine in, what is it, March to September, 7 months.
You know what I've heard too? I've brought that up with people, and their response is, yeah, but this is a global pandemic. You know, like, oh, okay, so let's just, inject steroids into the whole process.
Yeah.
This is the FDA.
And of course, as was pointed out very early in this whole process, that there had actually been some coronavirus vaccines patented years ago. And it would make more sense that those vaccines, came forward as, oh, look, we're just so lucky that we've been working on this. Here we go.
Yeah, that would make more sense, but it's not even
explain we'll have a vaccine in 7 months, not because we're starting from scratch, but because we've been working on it for a while.
Right. And I think in one of the episodes, I can't remember which one, probably like 20 episodes ago, we went through all of the mentions of coronavirus prior to 2019. And one of the articles from, I think, 2015 was some kind of computer simulation that showed how, they've figured out a way to, disinfect the coronavirus or disengage their whatever their mechanisms is in one of their, computer simulations or whatever. But here's the FDA.gov website. And this, again, gives a timeline. Phase 1, several months. Phase 2, several months to 2 years. Approximately 33% of drugs move to the next phase. In this little report, according to the FDA. And then phase 3, which is 300 to 3,000 volunteers, length of study 1 to 4 years. Then it goes into phase 4 here. So even the FDA is saying it takes years to do. So I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Everyone's all giddy about the vaccine, but it's just, it doesn't make me comfortable whatsoever. Yeah. And it shouldn't make even your normie comfortable about this.
Do you know what other sicknesses are associated with the coronavirus family of products?
Yeah, the SARS and what was it? There's
SARS, there's MERS.
MERS, yeah.
And what else?
The flu.
The common cold.
Yeah, common cold, okay.
You know how long people have been trying to create a vaccine for the common cold?
Yeah.
Or for SARS or MERS or any of these things. Of it,
yeah. I mean, what was SARS, 2003?
There's no vaccines for any other coronavirus, and we're just going to pump this one out in 7 months. Okay.
Yep.
You say so.
Yep. And this was here's another Waccine update here.
Waccine.
This was published on the International Business Times. Moderna vaccine induced antibodies in all trial participants. Paper.
Do you have the Bill Gates shoot 'em up jingle?
We're taking things that are genetically modified organisms and we're injecting them in little kids' arms. We just shoot them right into the vein, right into the vein, right into the vein, right into the vein.
Somebody in chat asked if we had seen that video, so I thought that would be an easy answer.
Oh, yes. Yes, we've absolutely. Okay. Moderna vaccine-induced antibodies in all trial participants. Paper. An experimental COVID-19 vaccine that is being developed by U.S. biotech firm Moderna induced antibody responses against the coronavirus in all 45 participants of a human trial. A paper published Tuesday showed, this was last Tuesday, Moderna had previously published interim results from its phase 1 in the form of a press release on its website in May, which revealed the vaccine had generated immune responses in 8 patients. Though these were called encouraging by Dr. Fauci, the top U.S. infectious disease official, the full study had been eagerly awaited by the scientific community. The company has since moved to the next stage of its trial involving 600 people. The new paper was published in the New England Journal of Medicine. The 45 participants were split into 3 groups of 15, each to test doses of 25 micrograms, 100 micrograms, and 250 micrograms. They were given a second dose 28 days later. 28 days later. Isn't that an interesting number, Basil? You remember that movie?
Yeah.
The zombies all over the place. After the first round, antibody levels were found to be higher with higher level doses. And after the second round, participants had higher levels of antibodies than most patients who had COVID-19 and had gone on to generate their own antibodies. More than half the participants experienced mild or moderate side effects, though these did not rise to the level where the trial will be called off. Side effects included fatigue, chills, headache, body ache, and pain in the injection site. 3 participants did not receive their second dose, including one in the 25 microgram group who developed a skin rash on both legs, and 2, one in the 25 microgram group and one in the 250 group, who missed their window because they had COVID-19 symptoms, but their tests later returned negative. So, yeah, it doesn't sound good for, if they're trying to convince everybody that, like, yeah, it's safe, don't worry about it, we're moving forward. Half the people that took the tests here had problems, but they're saying, not enough to call off the trials. Right, guys?
You know, what's actually funny about that 28 days later comment is that's actually how that movie happened.
I know. I know.
They all got vaccines for a disease
I know.
turned into zombies.
That's what I'm saying, man. They're just dangling just the nonsense in front of us, and they think we're not going to pick up on it. Okay.
Yeah.
Andrew Friedman, an infectious disease expert at the University of Cardiff who was not involved in the study. They always quote people not involved in the study. Said the paper suggested the vaccine, quote, is able to stimulate antibody production in a dose-dependent fashion. Importantly, the antibodies generated were able to neutralize the virus in lab conditions, he added. Quote, the side effects experienced by more than half the participants are quite common after other vaccinations, although the more severe adverse events experienced by 3 of the subjects given the highest dose may mean that dose is too high to take forward, he said. The Moderna vaccine belongs to a new class of vaccines that uses genetic material in the form of RNA to encode the information needed to grow the virus's spike protein inside the body in order to trigger an immune response. The spike protein is part of the virus it uses to invade human cells, but by itself is relatively harmless. But there you go. I feel like they're revealing quite a bit here without making it sound all alarmist. They're using genetic material in the form of RNA that encodes information needed to grow virus spikes, but it's harmless. Even though half the people got rashes and headaches and body aches and chills and totally normal, just normal vaccine stuff, right? Come on, guys.
That's apparently
take the vaccine. Only half of you will have these issues, but we will save the world.
Speaking of which, let's head over to msn.com for some more Waccine.
Waccine.
We'll need enormous numbers of Americans to test COVID-19 vaccines. A very encouraging 138,600 have signed up.
Oh, updated. Mine says 107 have signed up.
We have not read a single article that was left alone.
Okay, I'm going to leave it as is, and let's see how much has changed in the actual content here. Go ahead.
Okay, sounds good. The article reads, as of Monday, more than 138,600 people had signed up to take part in testing. Quote, that's why we're optimistic that we're going to be able to get the trials enrolled in an expeditious way. I think we can do what we need to do, said Dr. Anthony Fauci, director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. The milestone was reached just a week after the National Institute of Health launched a clinical trial network for vaccines and other prevention tools to fight the pandemic. More are still needed, but the initial surge will go a long way toward filling the requirement for at least 30,000 volunteers each for the 4 companies that plan to launch phase 3 clinical trials of their potential vaccines by early fall. So yeah, phase 3, as we learned earlier in the show, is where you test thousands of people, which is the last phase of testing.
Yeah.
So they've already made it. They've made it through
They've condensed
4 years of research and testing in 6 months. All right. Together, the Moderna, Pfizer, BioNTech, AstraZeneca, and Inovio trials will require at least 120,000 volunteers, which we have more of now, more than 120. Quote, I would say it's very encouraging at this stage, said Barry Bloom, an immunologist and vaccine expert who is a professor of public health at the Harvard Chan School of Public Health. Hundreds of clinical trials for drugs, medical devices, and vaccines are going on across the United States at any one time, but most are relatively small. Putting together 4 large trials at the same time, with even more planned to come online later in the fall and winter, is a massive undertaking. It doesn't just require volunteers, but also a robust complement of clinics, hospitals, and medical centers around the nation with staff and physicians experienced in running clinical trials. To make that happen, the NIH launched the COVID-19 Prevention Trials Network, merging 4 existing clinical trials networks. It launched on July 8th with a website where volunteers can sign up. The network builds on decades worth of work, creating clinical trial networks that goes back to the AIDS epidemic in the late 1980s, Fauci said. So this whole network goes back to Fauci's original work in the AIDS epidemic.
Which,
wow.
We saw earlier the protester holding up a sign. Dr. Fauci, you are killing us.
Stop killing us,
Stop
Dr.
killing
Fauci.
us. Okay.
Quote, it would take literally years to build up a network that I've built up. What? It would take literally years to build up a network that I've built up over the last 30 years. So why do it? We're going to use what we have.
Wow, that's a little arrogant there. I have built this network.
Well, I mean,
Science
this is
is
another
truth.
one of those dumb quotes. It would take literally years to build up a network that I built up over the last 30 years.
How many? So how many years does he need? How many? What is it? The network now, is it worth what? 1,000 years? Is 1,000 years worth of network that he did in 30 years?
I don't know who to blame for this one. It would take years to build up the network that I also took years to build up. So there you go. Okay. People chosen to take part in the racially, ethnically, and geographically diverse. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time reading today. People chosen will take part will be racially, ethnically, and geographically diverse. In its guidance for companies testing possible vaccines, the Food and Drug Administration said it wants the vaccine candidates to be tested in populations most affected by COVID-19, including ethnic and racial minorities, pregnant women, the elderly, and people with underlying medical conditions that can worsen COVID-19. While the effort is coming together quickly, the process is following the same strict protocols required of all vaccine developers. Quote, the guidelines for these trials are really clear. They will be scientifically rigorous, and there are no shortcuts.
No shortcuts?
There's no shortcuts except for 3.5 years. Phase 3 clinical trials come only after months of other tests that first begin in cells and then moves to animals. Only if all goes well with animal tests does the process move to humans. In Phase 1 trials, the goal is to determine any immediate adverse effects. This is done through tests in a small number of healthy people, generally fewer than 100. For example, for the Phase 1 trial of the Moderna vaccine candidate, 45 people took part.
Where half got sick. And 3 really sick.
Right. Anyways, we already learned about the phases, so we don't need to re-look at that one. But did you have anything highlighted in this, in your version of the story at least?
Not really. I thought it was interesting that earlier you read a quote in the new version that from Barry Bloom. And the quote you read was, "I would say it's very encouraging at this stage." But the full quote prior to being edited was, "I would say it's very encouraging at this stage to have 107,000 volunteers." So they just chopped off that other part of it because now they have the numbers.
Yeah,
that's little things like that to make it
they're just
more relevant.
Frankensteining these articles together. It's really annoying, A.
Yeah.
But B, questionable journalistic ethics standards.
Yeah, this is the one thing with the blockchain that we'll know every time they update stuff, or it won't be possible. They'll have to publish another article.
I wonder, let's see if they actually claimed an update on this
They
one.
have to. They have to have.
I don't see it.
At the bottom?
It's not listed. I was looking at the top. A lot of times they put it at the top. I do not see any update notices. No update notices.
All right. Well, there you go.
Great. Love it. Thanks, mainstream.
Yeah. And we'll do one more Waccine article before we take a quick break here. And this one coming from the a little more of the fringe here.
Waccine.
This is from Zero Hedge, so it's going to be good. Testing will begin in Africa for biometric ID vaccine records and payment systems. Testing will soon begin in poverty-stricken parts of Africa for a biometric ID, which will also be your payment system and vaccine record. The biometric digital identity platform that, quote, evolves just as you evolve, is backed by none other than the Bill Gates-backed Gavi Vaccine Alliance, MasterCard, and the AI-powered identity authentication company Trust Stamp. Yeah, don't trust that. The Gavi Alliance, which is largely funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates and Rockefeller Foundations, as well as allied governments and the vaccine industry, is principally concerned with improving, quote, the health of markets for vaccines and other immunization products, rather than the health of individuals, according to its own website. Similarly, MasterCard's Gavi partnership is directly linked to its World Beyond Cash efforts, which mainly bolsters its business model that has long depended on a reduction in the use of physical cash. Reducing the use of cash is needed. Cash is impossible to track, but if you use centralized digital currency, the ruling class has complete control over what you can spend. Quote, the program, which was first launched in late 2018, will see Trust Stamp's digital identity platform integrated into the Gavi MasterCard Wellness Pass, a digital vaccination record and identity system that is also linked to MasterCard's click-to-play system that powered by its AI and machine learning technology called New Data. MasterCard, in addition to professing its commitment to promoting, quote, centralized record keeping of childhood immunization, also describes itself as a leader toward a world beyond cash, and its partnership with Gavi marks a novel approach toward linking a biometric digital identity system, vaccination records, and a payment system into a single cohesive platform. The effort since its launch nearly 2 years ago has been funded via $3.8 million in Gavi donor funds, in addition to a matched donation on the same amount by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, according to the activist post. In early June, Gavi reported that MasterCard's Wellness Pass program would be adapted in response to the coronavirus pandemic. Around a month later, MasterCard announced that Trust Stamp's biometric identity platform would be integrated into Wellness Pass, as Trust Stamp's system is capable of providing biometric identity in areas of the world lacking internet access or cellular connectivity, and also does not require knowledge of an individual's legal name or identity to function. The wellness program involving Gavi, MasterCard, and Trust Stamp will soon be launched in West Africa and will be coupled with a COVID-19 vaccination program once a vaccine becomes available. Another activist post, quote here, what is perhaps most alarming about this new Wellness Pass initiative is that it links the dual-use digital solutions to cashless payment solutions that could soon become mandated, as anything over than touchless, cashless methods of payment have been treated as potential modes for contagion by Gavi-aligned groups like the World Health Organization, among others, since the pandemic was first declared earlier this year. Do you get it yet? It's all tied to the same thing, and the pandemic is an excuse to roll this out. Wake up. They're not coming to save you. Quite the opposite, actually. For those stuck on the line of thinking that President Donald Trump said this, quote, vaccine will be voluntary, you are probably correct. It'll be voluntary, all right. If you don't get it and participate in the new biometric ID program, you won't be able to buy or sell anything, including food. That sounds nothing like the definition of voluntary to me, but believe in whatever religion you wish and put your trust in whomever you want. I'll rely on myself instead of some politician to save me. All right there, Tyler Durden. Just what does Trump need 300 million doses of the vaccine for if it's going to be voluntary? We are in for a dark winter, as they have already told us several times. It's time to apply critical thinking and stop falling for all these psyops. Those who plan the enslavement of mankind warn of a dark winter for us. It's another article there. This doesn't mean you shouldn't remain vigilant and know what's going on. Get your preps in order. Do another audit. Buy some more food and improve your water storage. This system is here and it will not be voluntary in any sense of the word. It's similar to our voluntary tax system. Go ahead and choose not to pay, and men with guns will come to your house to make you pay. Yep, that's how voluntary interactions work. Note, that was sarcasm. Believe any politician you want, but they are all puppets for the Federal Reserve, and their takeover is imminent unless we wake up and stand together. Don't just take my word. Look into these issues for yourself. Everything is linked above, and better yet, find your own information. I would implore all of you not just to believe what you are being told by anyone, including Trump or myself. Research, read, learn, and prepare. And I had my look it up jingle somewhere here. I guess I don't have it on me. So look it up.
Look it up.
There it is.
So there's a lot in there.
Yeah.
What was the summary of that?
The summary is they're starting to roll out the biometric ID,
MasterCard Wellness Pass.
Yeah, the biometric ID connected to some kind of payment system that relates to if you've had a vaccine or not. And of course, much easier to roll it out in places in Africa where there's more need for that type of infrastructure than out here in the U.S. Although, we've reported on some of the stuff Trump plans that's kind of troubling too, having the military roll out the vaccines. So, what are you going to do? Buy guns and shoot them? Was that what you're going to do, Basil?
Me?
Yeah, I could picture you doing it.
Or shoot just, who? I'm not shooting anybody.
Just getting you into all kinds of trouble in this episode.
Yeah,
walk out there without your pants, and you'll be like, "Hey, you gonna really vaccinate a dude without pants?"
Oh, see, that's a great question. Will they vaccinate me if I'm not wearing pants?
It's break time. Come on, take a break.
That'd be a good time to break.
Yeah, that's a good break time. We're just going to take a real quick break. Don't go away, anybody. Don't go anywhere.
See, before you go on, if you hadn't eaten, you would have had that hunger. You've had the eye of the tiger, and you would have been on point. But you had food, so now you're all lazy and you're
referring to what now?
Just your inability to read and mess up words and all that. I'm blaming it on you eating before the show.
Oh my gosh, you better watch out, Gons, because you're really asking for trouble in the future. I'm going to get you. All right, everybody. Thank you for being here. We're just going to take a quick break. Don't go anywhere, though, because we've got some updates concerning the Portland protests there. Some, if you remember correctly, over the past few episodes, we've been talking about unmarked federal officers scooping people up. We got some secret police. We got some updates on that sort of thing, as well as a little mom segment. So stick around. And then after that, we got some Chinese news, referring to all sorts of good stuff that you're going to want to tune in for. So don't go anywhere. But real quick, I want to go through and thank some of our new Twitch followers. Those of you who follow us on Twitch, you guys are really helping us out. We appreciate that. And if you are watching anywhere else around the web, we suggest you head to twitch.tv twitch.tv/Canary Cry Radio. Follow us there, make an account, follow us there, make a funny name that I can enjoy reading on the air, but also make sure to do it because it's good to have a backup. As everybody knows, we've been having some trouble with YouTube. Pretty much every trouble you could have with YouTube, we have had with YouTube. And so far, Twitch, the worst Twitch has done to us so far is to trap us in 17th place on the categories, which, could be worse. But here we go, Gons. You got your dinger ready?
Dinger's ready.
Here we go. I want to thank Gee88.
Ooh, like a karate gi?
I think ghee like clarified butter.
Oh, okay.
Yes. iWebC. Amor Lunatico. Amor Lunatico. Love lunatic, I think.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah, that's fun. Myrrh 1014.
Myrrh.
Storyteller 810. Avabury 3. Nathan be jammin'. And then that's it. Let me reload here. Make sure we didn't skip anybody. Nope, that's it. Okay, small group this episode, but it's weekend. It's the weekend. So thank you everybody for
Monday,
following us on Twitch. They joined over the weekend. So we appreciate everybody watching wherever you are, whether it's YouTube, the Face Like the Sun YouTube channel, Canary Cry Radio YouTube channel, Facebook, Periscope, wherever you are. Oh, don't forget the D-Livers. Thank you, D-Livers, for being here as well. But we will recommend everybody subscribe on at least a few different of those outlets because you never know when federal agents will scoop up our stream. And then you're just left with nothing. And make sure to turn on notifications too. That's very important. Are we going to be? Let's just combine both breaks, Gons.
We tend to be doing that a lot recently, but yes.
Yeah, it's okay.
Good idea.
Yeah. So also, you guys, you got to remember we're on the value for value model, which means we don't make money from advertisers. We have yet to monetize your attention and your eyeballs, and we don't plan on doing that. We believe it's one of the main problems with the world today, not just the online economy, but every piece of media being, encouraged to earn the trust and the attention of listeners all around the world, and then turning around and selling them to corporations for our own personal gain. This leads to all sorts of issues that include tailoring your message as to not offend advertisers. And you know what? That's just not what we're about here. So we go on the value for value model, which means we put out the show 3 times a week. We're pretty consistent, and we like to think we do a pretty good job. And if you think so too, you have the opportunity not to just donate to the show, but to become a producer. Because that's right, this is the real world. If you pay to help something get produced, you're a producer, not a donor. So thank you very much. And Gons, I'm over here on patreon.com/CCNT for Canary Cry News Talk. And we got a new producer here.
Yep.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. I think it's just
Their name is Treasure Cat. Thank you very much, Treasure Cat. And that's it, just the one. I'm going to jump over here to patreon.com/Canary Cry Radio, see if anything came in there.
I think we got one there.
We did. Hello, and thank you very much, Estella. That's right, Treasure Cat and Estella. Everybody thank them. We appreciate you guys jumping on and helping out the show. A little bit light on the Patreon over the weekend, Gonzo, but let's see. Yep. Okay. So remember, we also have, Patreon got in some trouble a year or two ago, and we get it. Some people don't like Patreon. You don't got to support through Patreon. And for those who don't like it, we have canarycryradio.com/support.
Canary
CanaryCrimeRadio.com/support. That's right. Okay, over there you can help us out. We got PayPal, we got monthly contribution PayPal, but if commitment's not your thing, don't worry. You can make a donation, a one-time donation in any amount. There's also some fun stuff, cryptocurrency options, all sorts of cool stuff. Gons, anybody come in on PayPal over the weekend?
Nope. We got some recurring. But
Nobody.
I don't think we had anybody come in. No.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
This is tax month. It must be. It must
think
be
people
all
are
the
hurting.
taxes. People are busy giving their money to the government
Voluntarily. Or else people with guns come to your house.
Does the government claim taxes to be voluntary? Does anybody? We don't actually have a voluntary tax system.
Yeah, we've gone down that rabbit trail before. It's a little, it's a little iffy.
Well, I'm just asking, does the government actually claim that that's the case? I don't think anybody's claiming the American tax system is voluntary, is it? I know in the Constitution, I think it was supposed to be voluntary.
Yeah. Well,
Something
things
like
have
that.
changed with a lot of the circumstances that surround the state of the nation and have never gone back. It seems to be a trend, They change things up during wartime, and then temporary, and then it doesn't go back. It becomes a normal thing.
There you go. All right. So there you go. Anyways, we feel ya. Anybody out there hurting from taxes, we get it. And hopefully next month is better. But we appreciate our elite squadron of producers for this show: Estella, Treasure Cat, and nobody else.
Yes, another way you can support the show and become a producer is to send us your jingles related to the show or artwork related to the show. And we got quite a bit of artwork to share with you briefly here before we get back into some stories. And the first one I wanted to share, we got a couple from Jay Vella, who's been a constant. We have one here, the Conspiracy Singularity.
Yes.
It's pretty much what you see on the screen, but
it is the singularity.
Yeah,
I like that. That's a little art piece of what it's like to watch the show. Hey, it looks pretty good. I like it.
Yes, and Jay Vella sent in a second one. Hold on, let me see if I can pull it up without too much trouble here. Sometimes the images are huge, and I got to resize them for the screen and whatnot.
Oh boy.
Yeah, so here's the second one. Yeah, it is a little huge on the screen. Hold on, let me try to resize it if OBS would allow me to. You got the Twitch family.
A nice piece depicting the Twitch family, the Canary Cry Twitch family. We've got the Conspiracy Singularity. We've got Shoguns, which you're with your swords there. We're very happy to see you, Arm. We've got a nice picture of Flippy flipping burgers and little baby Gons surrounded by angels.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. And then there's Basil in the middle there. I got a cat, got my mask on, and then Marry Me Basil, one of the most prolific chat
Twitchers
participants. Yes, the Twitch chat participants is waving at me there, and it's got some. I'm assuming those are flowers. So there we go. Very nice.
They're poison flowers.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
I was thinking maybe it was cotton candy or something.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
But flowers are cool too.
Yeah, flowers are nice. We also had artwork from Morton James White. Did I say that right?
I don't know.
Yeah. And he gave us a cool piece here. It was kind of like I don't know how to explain it. It's the all-seeing eye.
Yes, it's
Canary Naughty.
Canary Naughty.
Canary Naughty
Canary
confirmed.
Naughty confirmed.
And it's got the all-seeing eye. It's got the bird on a twig.
Yes, we're covering up we're blinding the Illuminati, the all-seeing eye.
Yeah, there you go. Yes, we are.
Very
we
nice.
are all Canary Naughty confirmed. So
Canary
that was great.
Naughty.
Thank you for that, Morton James White. And we also got a couple from Team Charlie Stevens. And do you want to read that email, Basil? Do you want me to read it? I think I have it pulled up.
Yeah,
here.
let me see if I got it. Yeah, I'll read it. Let me pull it up here. Very nice piece of art. Actually, I did like these quite a bit. Let's see. Yes, this was from Charlie. Dear Basil and Gons, my 13-year-old daughter. I won't say any name. Yeah, well, this is Allie. We're not going to say any last names. My 13-year-old daughter, Allie, new Twitch user, Gasoline Bonds.
Woo.
Very funny Twitch user from last show. She is so thrilled that you liked her moniker. Good. I was thrilled to see the moniker. Is quite the fan of your show, and she has dedicated her most recent drawings to you guys. Some background on behind the scenes. So one of them is behind the scenes. The Basil Under Control. You got that one up there.
Yep.
The gifts, it shows, for those who are just listening, it's a picture of myself. Pretty good picture, actually. I'm pretty impressed with this.
I was going to say, they might be spying on you or have some kind of cameras in the house.
Yes, she's obviously watched the show quite a bit because this is pretty good. And then it's me, got my headset on. I'm in front of my computer, and I've got cats everywhere. One of the cats is saying, "Let him read it, Basil." Getting angry at me taking stuff from you, apparently. And then the other kitty saying, "Tell a joke now, Basil." So I'm the puppeteers are controlling my stream. And then I've got my foot on a bird cage underneath the desk there. We got a canary in a cage with a cat kind of messing with them. And I'll go back to the message here. The gifts are all from Marry Me Basil. Marry Me Basil's making it into all the art today. Wow.
It's making the impression in the chat there.
Yes, making quite the impression. Whose Twitch commentary amuses Allie to no end. You'll notice if you zoom in and squint, there's a chalk from the stalker and more chocolate from the stalker. The tag on the plant on the table says, "Marry me." The flowers being played with by the cat under the table are also from her, as is the caged canary on which Basil is resting his weary feet. There is also a cat in the more chocolate from the stalker box, so we got cats everywhere. And then they have some more stuff in the note there, and we appreciate that very much. Very good. And then there was a second piece of art.
Yes.
There called Family Thing. And it's Family Thing is a Basil cat, a Monty. That's right. That does look like Monty number 2. Wearing a VR headset with googly eyes so he can be just like Basil. So very good. Allie, Gasoline Bonds in the chat. Thank you so much. And we will make sure to put these up on the Facebook. We'll pop them in some newsletters, so make sure to check them out. You can also find all the art and the show notes over at canarycrynewstalk.com. Make sure to check it out.
All right.
What else we got? Is that the ones?
I think that's it.
Yeah. Great. Wow. A lot of art this show.
Yeah.
Very good.
Good stuff. Love it all.
Cool. Okay. What else? Anything else for this break?
No, we need to get on it because we got to get through a lot of stuff in like 30 minutes.
Okay, we're going to zoom through here. Let's wake on up, Gons.
Oops, it's the end.
Yes, it's wake up time.
Hey, yo, wake up.
Sorry.
I like how going into the break is a high energy screaming jingle, and then coming out of the break is very calm and nice.
Gentle.
Okay, let's head on over to CBS News. We've got another mainstream outlet here. We want to check in on Portland. The article is titled, "Federal Officers Again Tear Gas Protesters in Portland, Oregon." Protesters outside the federal courthouse in Portland, Oregon were targeted with tear gas by federal officers for the sixth night in a row on Sunday. Reports the CBS affiliate there, KOIN TV, Coin TV. It marked the 52nd straight night of protests in the city against police violence and for racial justice. Even after the tear gas was deployed, demonstrators regrouped outside the building in the early hours of Monday morning. It wasn't clear whether any protesters were arrested or detained. That is an interesting thing to say.
Yeah, especially with all the people, all the footage of alleged people getting taken off the streets.
Yes, the secret police scooping people up.
Yeah,
but it's also weird. I mean, you're a mainstream nationwide nationwide news outlet. Did people get arrested or not? Were they detained or not? Like, if it wasn't clear, I don't get it. What do you mean it wasn't clear? Anyways. Just ask somebody.
Ask the police. Or wait, no,
yes.
we hate the police. Sorry. Don't ask the police.
Yeah,
they won't tell us the truth.
If somebody got arrested, there's a public record of it.
Yeah.
Just look it up. You're a journalist.
Look it up.
Coin reporters saw protesters, including a group of mothers wearing yellow and holding flowers, peacefully surround a fence at the Mark O. Hatfield Federal Courthouse after night fell. A few federal officers were spotted leaving the building, but staying behind the fence before going back inside. By 11:40 p.m., parts of the fence were disassembled, and some protesters were sitting behind it. Some 10 minutes later, Coyne saw federal officers rushing out of the building and using a large amount of tear gas, and in addition to another crowd control munitions on protesters, many of whom had their hands up. You know, this hands up thing is very interesting. I mean, this was an interesting little rhetorical device to throw into the article. Obviously, you know, many of whom had their hands up, meaning these people are innocent. Don't tear gas them. How awful is this? Not to say it's not awful, but just again,
they were tearing down fences, but at the same time, their hands were up.
Yes, they didn't tear down fences, Gons. Parts of the fence were disassembled.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Notice that.
Yeah.
By 11:40 p.m., parts of the fence were disassembled, and some protesters were sitting behind it. Not protesters tore down the fence.
All right.
And then, anyways, moving on. It's just fun to point these mind control devices out. All right, night 51. On Saturday night, Portland police declared a riot after the police union building was broken into and a fire was lit. It was the 51st night of the protests in Portland, where federal authorities have been sent in despite opposition from state and local authorities. Yeah, the state and local authorities obviously don't need any help. We're just gonna let the people burn down a few buildings. It's all good. Portland police said in a statement on Sunday that they declared a riot due to the violent conduct of the large group, creating a grave risk of public alarm. The crowd began to disperse as police issued a public service announcement. What was this public service announcement that actually made people disperse? This has been going on for 51 days. What message could the police possibly have said in their public service announcement that broke it up? Federal officers deployed tear gas. Oh, that probably did it. Once again on Saturday night
that's
fencing.
the announcement.
Yeah.
Here's tear gas.
Our announcement. Federal officers deployed tear gas once again on Saturday night as fencing was torn down around the federal courthouse, where officers and protesters clashed before, CBS Portland affiliate Coyne reported. The fencing around the courthouse had come down Friday night and was repaired and replaced on Saturday, and then torn down again. They cannot keep these fences up. Portland police said Sunday that 4 people were arrested for charges that included riot and interfering with a police officer. Protests in Portland erupted in June, and then we get our little background paragraphs there.
They should ask Trump to help him build a wall, because it's not really working out too well.
They obviously can't figure it out. But no, notice how there's no mention of protesters taking the fences down. It's always the fences came down.
Yeah, they just on their own. They just
were disassembled. The fences were. Yeah, it's funny. All right. Did you have anything highlighted in this you want to?
Not really. It's just pretty crazy stuff going on in Portland now that the
federal officers are not giving up ground.
Yeah. The only thing I had on this was the BBC side of the report, just to compare and contrast a little bit of the differences in reporting from within the U.S. and outside the U.S., even though it's the same, BBC is pretty much the same entity.
Yeah. I do want to mention, because they do talk about the Gestapo, the secret police, that is really concerning. I mean, as much as we can make fun of things or make light of things. There is a quote here. Wheeler and the Oregon officials have blamed Trump. Who is Wheeler? Wheeler. Ted Wheeler, the mayor of Portland. He had a quote here that said, "The tactics the Trump administration are using on the streets of Portland are horrid," Wheeler said. "As you indicated, people are literally being scooped off the street and into unmarked vans, rental cars apparently. They are being denied probable cause and due process. They don't even know who is pulling them into the vans. The people are not identifying themselves. As far as I can see, this is completely unconstitutional." Mr. Trump on Sunday tweeted, "We are trying to help Portland, not hurt it." Quote, "The leadership has for months lost control of the anarchists and agitators," he continued. "They are missing in action. We must protect federal property and our people. These were not merely protesters. These are the real deal." In an interview with Chris Wallace on Fox News on Sunday, Mr. Trump said, "We've arrested many leaders in Portland." Quote, "If we didn't take a stand right now, you would have a problem," Mr. Trump said. "They're going to lose Portland." I'm not sure what that means, what losing Portland would mean. I mean, if the insinuation is that it would completely become occupied by some sort of military force that no longer sat under United States authority, I guess that is a certain case, but I think they're pretty far off from that. But, I think we do need to keep in mind that this whole secret police thing, these sort of amorphous federal organizations going in there, this is really very disturbing and continues to be very disturbing. As much as anybody wants peace on the streets and, law and order, unmarked rental vans with unmarked military style troops arresting people, not even arresting them, just putting them, disappearing them in these vans is very not cool, no matter who you are. And this really is starting to worry me a little bit more. For this type of thing to start happening in the United States, for me, Gons, it does signal it's a, I don't even know what to call it. I was going to say high watermark, but that's not doesn't quite have the right connotations. But this might be the most worrying thing to me that's happened in maybe the last 6 months. Because once you go down that path, it's very difficult for an authoritative government to pull back from those tactics.
Yeah, and we've talked about how it puts everybody between a rock and a hard place, so to speak, because if you're against Trump, then obviously this is the complete takeover of a totalitarian dictator. If you're for Trump, then all of a sudden you're going, oh yeah, we got to protect the country or protect Portland. Yeah, but you're doing it by means that are pretty overreaching.
Even if you are a Trump supporter and you are a law and order person, this unmarked rental van, unmarked troops, disappearing people, no due process, no nothing. This is not cool.
Well, and again, we showed some footage in the last episode, and it wasn't clear that that's what those people were. It was very difficult, at least from the footage that we saw.
Yeah,
it wasn't.
Well, you have no idea what they are.
Well, that's
They're
what I'm
just
saying.
Guys in camo.
But is that the federal people, or is that just a stage thing? Like, what was going on there? So
I don't know.
We had our speculations on that, but
yeah, and they are they're we did read off the actual federal agencies that are officially called in, being Border Patrol, Federal Protection Agency,
the Homeland Security. This is mentioned in this BBC article here. So this section from the BBC article: the role of federal troops sent to Portland is the subject of intense speculation at the moment. Numerous widely shared videos show troops in camouflage combat style uniform arresting protesters, transporting them away in apparently unmarked vehicles. Senior Democrat Nancy Pelosi said, this is a funny quote here, "Unidentified stormtroopers were kidnapping protesters." I'm just picturing Nancy Pelosi call them unidentified stormtroopers. Another Democrat, Ro Khanna, described those involved as secret federal agents. So who exactly are they? They belong to a new federal force created last month in an executive order signed by President Trump, which tasks them to protect historic monuments, memorials, statues, and federal facilities. The personnel are drawn from a range of teams, including the Customs and Border Protection Agency and the U.S. Marshal Service. The Federal Protection Service, part of the Homeland Security and charged with protecting government buildings, also has officers in Portland and has detained protesters. The U.S. Marshal Service's Special Operations Group says it is, quote, deployed in high-risk and sensitive law enforcement situations, national emergencies, civil order, and natural disasters. So that's who they are allegedly, and it goes into some of the same type of information that we saw from the last article there. But yeah, it's, there's a part of me that thinks, if you got to do something to stop some of these folks. And because we know, the more violent, I'm going to air quotes, protesters are part of this sort of communist takeover here. So I can understand that.
Well, that's a good taste of communism for them.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's like, you got to fight fire with fire, I guess. But like you said, the precedence that's set is what's troubling. Is once you set this in motion,
that's a line that should never be crossed as far as the real American spirit is considered. And stuff like this happens a lot in counterterrorism. Type of stuff, but it's usually put through the proper legal channels, even if the legal channel allows, and that might be what this is operating under.
I think it is,
because that must be what it is. I mean, this is some Guantanamo Bay type stuff where they don't need to be charged legally if they are considered domestic terrorists or terrorists in general. They don't need to even have a case brought against them for a long time. They don't need you don't need warrants. You don't need nothing.
The silver lining, I guess, is that they're just taking them in somewhere. They're not just outright getting out there and shooting him.
Well, yeah, we hope that they're not.
Oh, I know, but I'm saying worse. That it could be that. If you really want to talk about a total totalitarian thing, then they can just come out and start.
I don't know.
I'm just saying, man.
Get excited about
I'm not excited about it. I'm just saying, if they're gonna do this, I'd rather have them just take these people off the street and who knows what after, but like just take them off the street, then just shoot them down in the street or run them over, like they do in China.
Well, maybe. But if something like that was happening in public and it's caught on camera, then, there can actually be some evidence and there can be some pushback and there can be some action.
Yeah.
The secrecy thing is actually one of the most dangerous parts about it.
Well, they didn't have enough time to design badges and deploy them, apparently. Maybe they could do that once, I don't know. I'm just meandering around now.
Badging the marshals.
Yeah. Give him some kind of uniform.
Well, yeah, they got some kind of uniform.
I know they got uniform, but identifier other than police on the back of their jerseys or whatever.
That's the other weird thing, and that's what makes it so sketchy. They're in full on tactical camo gear. They have got helmets. They look like soldiers, but no badges. So, they look like soldiers. It's not like they could walk through a crowd sneakily. They obviously are something.
Yeah.
But it's like having a cop with a uniform on, but no badge. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's not right. So anyways, I don't know. I just wanted to mention that is actually the most disturbing thing.
Yeah.
For
and
me,
we had
that is
a couple things. We had the mom thing. I don't know how much you want to talk about it, but
we'll just do it real quick so we can play the mom jingle.
Other, there is no other like mother. So treat her right, come on.
As was mentioned in the article before, the moms showed up. The moms showed up at the protest, Portland protest. And this is a video here, and it's, what were they called? They were called, wow, I just turned on the volume on that, and it was quite loud. Moms for Justice, and they all don masks and helmets and yellow shirts, and the moms put a human barrier between this fence that can't stay standing for some reason, this self-disassembling fence. The moms put themselves between the protesters and the fence to make a mom shield. And you know what? Regardless of your political leanings and everything else, there's nothing more powerful than a bunch of moms, getting between I can't tell if they're protecting the fence from the protesters or the protesters from the fence, but whatever the case, moms are in action over there in Portland.
Yeah, and my whole take on this is if the mothers would just stand and mother their children to not be protesting and knocking down fences in federal buildings.
Yeah, maybe the mothers are taking the fence down.
They're showing what's up. Yeah, I'm saying maybe if they were better mothers in the first place, we wouldn't be in the situation where mothers have to put themselves in harm's way and put sunflowers into the fences.
Gons. Watch out, moms. Gons is coming for you.
I'm coming for the moms. Your parenting skills.
Do we want to get into this witchy stuff real quick? I thought this was interesting.
Yeah, just mention it.
This is on the LA Times. Out of Portland tear gas, an apparition emerges, capturing the imagination of protesters. What an interesting way to put this. Yeah. She emerged as an apparition from clouds of tear gas as federal agents fired pepper balls at angry protesters in the early Saturday darkness. A woman wearing nothing but a black face mask and a stocking cap strode towards a dozen heavily armed agents attired in camouflage fatigues lined up across the downtown Portland streets. The agents, dispatched by the Trump administration over vociferous objections of state and city officials, are part of a force that has fired projectiles at and detained activists protesting nightly since the killing of George Floyd in Minneapolis police. May 25th. Numerous photos and videos posted to Twitter show the unidentified woman as she halted in the middle of the street at about 1:45 a.m. She stood calmly, a surreal image of human vulnerability in the face of an overpowering force that has been criticized nationally by civil rights advocates. The agents in gas masks and helmets continued firing pepper balls in a staccato pop 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 heard on the video, aiming low at the asphalt where puffs of smoke mingled in clouds of gas. At one point, a fellow protester, clothed, carrying a homemade shield, darted. I
like how they have to say clothed.
Clothed.
This other woman,
clothed.
This other protester who was clothed.
Yes, carrying a homemade shield, darted in front of the woman, angling to protect her. But the woman sidestepped him. He jumped out of the way, perhaps realizing he had made them both a target. Before it was over, she struck ballet poses and reclined in the street. She also sat on the asphalt in a yoga-like position, facing officers before they left. Portland has long been loved or mocked for its streak of earnest but quirky organic earthiness, as portrayed in Portlandia television comedy series. Sometimes the envelope-pushing forms of expression involve nudity. Then it goes into a short review of Portland's history with nude protesting, which I'm going to skip. The woman making her statement Saturday was altogether uninhibited, at one point standing on one leg and raising her arms in an arc-type motion. As she struck ballet poses, a patrol car arrived and a dozen officers in blue uniforms replaced the line of agents, whom officials described as having been targeted by protesters throwing rocks, bottles, pieces of metal. She sat in the street facing them, legs spread in the headlights' glare. Later, she rolled on her back in a graceful pose and then stood again. The second group of officers, who may have been either Portland police or federal agents, also left. In all, the woman's appearance lasted about 15 minutes. News photographers said she slipped away uninjured into the crowd. And then talks about
compares it to Tiananmen Square.
Media. Yeah, comparing it to Tiananmen Square and a few other big things. Now, this was
nudity
interesting.
as protest.
I actually had some Portland people that I know tell me about this. I can't recall if they were actually there or not, but they sure were speaking as if that were the case. I don't know. The long story short, through this very poetic article by the Los Angeles Times, referring to this person as an apparition emerging from the clouds of gas, striking poses. The first thing that really kind of occurred to me, and others confirmed this, was as kind of a witchy thing. Did that strike you as sort of a witchy type of thing here?
Yeah, I mean, just strangely occultic in general. I mean, you got your face covering, which, by the way, the article, I was going to say racist, but I didn't. Black face mask. And there was later a part that said that some people said it distracted from the Black Lives Matter injustice, that a white woman would do this.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, you look at all the, the eyes wide shut type of stuff going on with the mask and the nudity, and, it's the same type of deal. It's just very weird that it would be featured more so than the story itself. The story is kind of like, all right, whatever. Some naked lady went out there and did her thing in front of the police or whatever in protest, I guess. Mm-hmm. But the more the thing that we should keep in mind is, the Los Angeles Times making it a feature, making it a story, having this really provocative image as the headliner or header of the article, and making it seem like it was this profound thing that she did to, in protest against the police and all this. That part of it to me is a little more striking. And a lot more occultic in the approach.
Yeah, definitely some goddess stuff there, and I think you mentioned it. They were referring to her as what, nude Athena or something?
Naked Athena.
Yeah. The interesting thing to me was it did take 15 minutes, but it did work. Apparently, whatever she was doing, it worked.
The spell worked.
Both the federal agents and the cops wanted nothing to do with shooting a naked woman. Yeah, which I guess we should be happy for.
I suppose.
It was just a very interesting thing that happened.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have anything else to say about it. It's just a noteworthy article.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just more concerned that this is being shared and being, on the social media. You'll see people saying like, "Oh, this is what protest is all about. This is how you peacefully disarm the police," and all that kind of stuff. And now we're going to have a bunch of naked people running around.
Yeah, I was going to say, all the protests are going to turn into naked protests.
Well, it's funny because, not funny, but the perception of things, how they change, right? Because, well, first off, you have your like 60s love, sex, drugs, rock and roll. This was a similar type of thing, running around naked and being free and all this kind of stuff. There's a biblical precedence, right? There's no shame here. The part of being naked was being ashamed in the garden, but it's kind of overstepping that whole thing. But also, the show that ended after 33 seasons, Cops. Anytime you saw like a naked person in the street, flaunting themselves towards the cops, it was like, oh,
they're
that person's on drugs. But now it's like, oh, it's this beautiful theme of protest. It's just weird how we just change our perception on these things.
That's a really good point. In what other situation do you see a police officer interacting with a naked person that person isn't on meth or something?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it was 1:30 in the morning. So, that's like, meth hour, right?
Yeah, let's see if I can find it. I think they mentioned it in this article. How it was reported in a different, I think they're referring to a right-leaning news outlet.
Yeah, the National Review spun it.
Do you have it?
Yeah, I think
somewhere?
I have it here. Yes, the National Review website gave the incident its own spin, stating, quote, "Antifa psychopath loses her mind, strips naked to protest Portland police. So again, it's just, it just goes to show that we are so split right now as a society that an event like this would garner.
The Thundercunder in chat does make a good point, who says, who has clothes on at 1:30 a.m.?
Well, apparently not Thunder Clunder and not Basil.
And yes, and nude Athena.
Nude Athena, apparently, too, in protest.
All right. What's next?
We got a couple. We got to fly through a couple of these. I think I'm going to save one of them for the next episode, but we got some Chinese news update here.
Yeah, why don't you...
Welcome to Chinese News!
Just pick the one you want, and that's what we'll go out on.
Okay. This one is from news18.com. China develops facial recognition tech to identify people wearing coronavirus masks. And we reported on technology to identify faces with masks on early on. But here's another report here from China. A Chinese company says it has developed the country's first facial recognition technology that can identify people when they are wearing a mask, as most are these days because of the coronavirus, and help in the fight against the disease. China employs some of the world's most sophisticated systems of electronic surveillance, including facial recognition. But the coronavirus, which emerged in Hubei province late last year, has resulted in almost everyone wearing a surgical mask outdoors in the hope of warding off the virus, posing a particular problem for surveillance. Yeah, problem. Now, Hanwan Technology Ltd., which also goes by the English name Hanvan, said it has come up with technology that can successfully recognize people even when they are wearing masks. Quote, if connected to a temperature sensor, it can measure body temperature while identifying a person's name, and then the system would process the result, say, if it detects a temperature of 38 degrees, that's Celsius. Hanwang Vice President Huang Lei told Reuters in an interview. The Beijing-based firm said a team of 20 staff used core technology developed over the past 10 years, a sample database of about 6 million unmasked faces, and a much smaller database of masked faces. To develop the technology, the team began work on the system in January as the coronavirus outbreak gathered pace and began rolling it out to the market after just a month. It sells two main types of products that use the tech. One performs single-channel recognition that is best used at, for example, entrances to office buildings. The other, more powerful, the product is a multi-channel recognition system that uses multiple surveillance cameras. It can identify everyone in a crowd of up to 30 people within a second, Huang said. Quote, when wearing a mask, the recognition rate can reach about 95%. That's interesting. I think it's a typo there because it says percent as two separate words, but we know that it means percent like a percentage. Anyway, which can ensure that most people can be identified, Huang said, adding the success rate for people without mask is about 99.5%. Losing facial information, a big customer, not surprisingly, is the Ministry of Public Security, which runs the police. Using Hanwang's technology, the ministry can cross-reference images with its own database of names and other information, and then identify and track people as they move about, Huang said. Quote, it can detect crime, suspects, terrorists, or make reports or warnings, he said. But the system struggles to identify people with both a mask and sunglasses, he said. Quote, in this situation, all of the key facial information is lost. In such cases, recognition is tough, Huang said. The company has about 200 clients in Beijing using the technology, including the police, and expects scores more across 20 provinces to start installing it soon, Huang said. It is not immediately clear how Chinese citizens are reacting to this new technology. When it comes to other surveillance tools being used in the fight against coronavirus, there has been some grumblings on social media, but most people seem to be accepting extra intrusion or even embracing it as a means to deal with the health emergency. Although domestic customers have been driving Wang's business, Wang also said he expected more foreign interests as the virus spreads around the world and more people wear face masks. Quote, It not only benefits Chinese people, but also when the technology is applied globally, it can benefit the world, he said.
Woo!
So facial recognition technology benefiting the world. And actually, you know what? The date on this was a little bit earlier. I think we might have reported on this, not the exact same story, but a similar one earlier. So I'm going to go ahead and do the other Chinese story here because I think it relates to stuff more happening now. So let me do this. Or do you want to do this?
Welcome to Chinese News!
From CNBC.com. I think this one's more troubling.
Yes. Okay. CNBC.com. We got some money here too, if you want to talk about that.
Yep.
$100 billion.
I don't have any money.
It sort of has a collision of a couple different topics that we talk about. CNBC.com headline titled, Global Banks Are Scrutinizing Their Hong Kong Clients for Pro-Democracy Ties, sources say. Global wealth managers are examining whether their clients in Hong Kong have ties to the city's pro-democracy movement in an attempt to avoid getting caught in the crosshairs of China's new national security law, according to 6 people with knowledge of the matter. Bankers at Credit Suisse, HSBC Holdings, Julius Baer, and UBS, amongst others, are broadening scrutiny under the programs that screen clients for political and government ties and subjecting them to additional diligence requirements, these people said. The designation, called politically exposed persons, can make it more difficult or altogether prevent people from accessing banking services depending on what the bank finds about the person's source of wealth or financial transactions. The checks at some wealth managers have involved combing through comments made by clients and their associates in public and in media and social media posts in the recent past, these people said. The new law prohibits what Beijing describes broadly as secession, subversion, terrorism, and collusion with foreign forces, up to life in prison for offenders. And this is the law that included, if you say something mean about the CCP while you're visiting America or live in America and set foot in mainland China, you are considered a terrorist. The sources, who requested anonymity, obviously because of the sensitivity of the situation, said the broadened scrutiny of clients also applied to Hong Kong and Chinese officials who had implemented the law in anticipation of any U.S. sanctions against them. One banker at a global wealth manager, wow, that was weird. This article literally changed as I was watching it. Wow. That was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. The banker at a global wealth manager that holds more than $200 billion in assets said the audit of its clients could go back as far as 2014 in some cases to gauge a client's political stance since Hong Kong's 2014 pro-democracy umbrella movement. Protesters at the time used umbrellas to shield themselves from tear gas and pepper spray deployed by police. Reuters could not learn the identities of any people who had faced enhanced scrutiny or whether the banks had decided to take any action against people identified as politically exposed. Albert Ho, a veteran Hong Kong Democrat who runs a law firm and helps organize an annual candlelight vigil to commemorate victims of the June 4th, 1989 Tiananmen Square crackdown, said he feared that people like him may face, quote, difficulties in the times to come. Quote continues, there's not much you can do, actually, unless you cease all your financial and banking activities in Hong Kong, Ho said, adding he had not faced additional scrutiny from his bank as of last week. He declined to disclose the name of his bank. HSBC declined to comment specifically on the security law or any U.S. move to sanction local officials. In an emailed statement, it said, quote, we already have a stringent set of policies and rigorous processes in place which we apply globally. Excuse me. So in the interest of time, I mean, the article continues, but the fact of the matter is that banks are now punishing pro-democracy Hong Kongers, which is now obviously from the bank's perspective, they're like, well, these people are going to have their assets frozen in China and put in jail in China and yada, yada, yada. So we don't want to serve them. But this is a drastic global shift towards leaning in in the favor of the Chinese Communist Party and one of the most dictatorial governments on earth. This is pretty disturbing. When you're talking about, we talk about banking a lot and lots of conversations around a cashless society. I mean, imagine your bank calling you up and saying, well, China doesn't like you, so we're not your bank anymore.
Well, it feels like that's already taking place, as you heard about Bank of America giving $1 billion to the BLM.
I did not hear about that.
You didn't hear about this. Yeah.
$1 billion. Wow, that's a
billion.
lot.
That's a lot of money to a self-admitted Marxist organization.
Right.
And
wow.
so, Bank of America, that's not really the name that reflects the reality of the situation. Not that it ever did really, but now even more so out in the open.
Yeah.
But that's really troubling. If that's any kind of precedent that's set out here in the West, that's going to be a problem. That any kind of political affiliation is going to be scrutinized, and depending on your affiliations, you or your family members can't access your bank accounts. And it's just the way the world is headed. This crazy mark of the beast-ish reality
just another
emerging.
Incredibly disturbing detail.
Yeah,
of the whole thing.
Yeah, and again, we're not saying that. It's just funny because one thing can be the mark, the other thing can be the mark, whatever. But it just seems like the political temperament, the I don't know, just the atmosphere of all of it is going in that direction where, obviously there's some geopolitical things that ought to take place, biblically speaking, that surrounds a false prophet that issues a mark. But in general, just the whole, I don't know, sentiment of the world heading in that direction is very alarming. And I think we should all educate ourselves on how we can, at least for the time being, until the Lord returns, occupy and sort of fight against this type of system because we are in Cold War II, as some have termed it. And what we can do, Twitter wars or whatever it is, but especially when it comes to protecting your own finances, that's a whole nother conversation that, some people don't like the idea of a cashless society. I don't think we should get rid of cash, but if you really stop and think about it, what is cash? Most of it is just paper, Well, what's the difference between a paper that says $1 and a paper that says $100? Well, we just all agree that one piece of paper is worth $100 and the other one's worth $1, So it's kind of you think about it, it's like, what are we fighting for when it comes to that cashless thing? So anyway, it gets into the whole topic of sound money and all this kind of stuff. And
you heard it here first, folks. Gons is excited for the mark of the beast and to give up all of his rights.
I did not say that. I am just pointing out the nuances of the discussion that I think people need to really investigate and
look it up
and think about.
That's
because we got to get into the nuances here, because if we don't, then we're just like every other show. We're just peddling the fear or peddling the liberal Liberace or whatever
we are all about the nuance to our own detriment on this show here.
I know. Nobody understands us, not even our listeners. No, there are many producers who gets it.
No, our people are the best. They love the nuance. Okay, everybody. Gons, we better get you out of here. We're right up against your time here. Yes. So let's get you going. Thanks, everybody, for being here for this episode of Canary Cry News Talk. Remember that we roll on the value for value model. We create the show. We try to do it as consistently as we can, and we like to think we do an okay job. And if you think so too, remember, you gotta join the club. Become a producer. This is the real world, baby. We're not taking donations. We need people who are partnering with us to keep this show going and to keep the complexities, the subtleties, and the most importantly, the important details of what's going on in the world today. And if you believe that that's a worthwhile mission, no matter how long you've been listening, whether it's 1 episode, 10 episodes, who knows, 221 episodes, it's your chance. Now is your time. Join, become a producer. You can do that at patreon.com/CCNT. And I mean, I think we've said it all. We've got I think because of tax season, the producership has slowed a little bit, so we could, I'm afraid one of these shows, we're not going to have any producer names to read. So now's a great time. It's the perfect time to become a producer. You can do that at patreon.com/CCNT, or if you don't like Patreon, that's okay. Head over to canarycryradio.com/support.
canarycryradio.com/support.
Woo! That's right, folks. And, over there we got PayPal options, all sorts of good stuff, and cryptocurrency. If you send us cryptocurrency, send us an email if you want a shout out on the show, because that is anonymous. Okay, you can also help out the show by leaving a rating and a review. I'm going to be reading some ratings and reviews this week, so get them in there. Make me laugh, folks. Let people know that Canary Cry News Talk is the place to be 3 times a week. And speaking of which, remember, we'll be back on Wednesday sometime between noon and 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So make sure to tune in there. Follow us at Twitch at twitch.tv/canarycryradio. Gons, will you drop the link in there? Into the chat for us. Follow us there and turn on notifications. So far from the data I can see, notifications go out most consistently with Twitch. So I recommend that you do that if you want to catch the show on Wednesday. And remember us, become a producer for Wednesday. We appreciate you very much. And if you also want to help out the show in other ways, remember, you can make some art, show-themed art. We'll show it on the show. We'll put it on the website, put it on the Facebook. It's a great time. And if you are a musical person, you can write us a song or a jingle or something. A jingle, make sure it's not just a clip of a song that will give us a copyright strike there. And that'll be fun. You can send all that stuff to canarycryradio@gmail.com. Please do that. We appreciate it very much. We love seeing the creations of our producers and listeners. So thank you very much. Am I forgetting anything, Gonzo?
I do not believe so. Appreciate all you guys hanging out.
Did it.
Yeah,
I think we did it.
I noticed there was a lot more people on the Canary Cry Radio YouTube stream. We hit 50 at one point. That's a lot more than before. So, hey, maybe we can...
Face Like the Sun, still the biggest contributor to live views.
At the moment, yeah.
Yes. Okay, everybody. Now remember, there you go. You can leave us ratings and reviews. Remember to subscribe to the podcast. You can do that on any podcatcher, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, things like that. Because if you miss the live show, you want to be able to listen to the podcast. It has much better sound quality. You'll like it very much. You won't regret it. So make sure to do that. And if you need any help figuring out how to help your friends, your loved ones on their journey to wake up, realizing that the world is not what it seems, go ahead and just send them an episode. That's the best way to share the show. Just send them an episode, tell them what to expect, and if you need any help after that, all I can say is walk right up to him, grab him by the cage, and shake it.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Hey, stop that! You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
The human race will have every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
That's right. Just ask Noah. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Ooh, Kitty's here to say hello and goodbye. Make sure to tune in to the next episode of Canary Cry News Talk on Wednesday. Turn on notifications, and we will see you then. But until then, remember to think outside the cage.
There's Kitty.
Kitty, 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 kitty.
All right.
My name is Gonzo. I'm from Japan.
Aliens.
And melt those babies into
shake things up, shake things up. I wanna shake things up, shake things up. Leave the bird alone. I wanna stir up some controversy. I wanna rattle a few cages. I'm the last angry man. You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man. I'm the last angry man. You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man. A crusader for the little guy. Little guy. Well, we'll see about that.
Whatever, Illuminati.
Don't let me go into the archives and find out what I told you. I tell you something. People call me everything under the sun, accuse me of lying and everything else. I try to give you a heads up. I warn you. And then months later, when I'm right, everybody forgets. I said this months ago. I tried to tell y'all. This is what was happening. I tried to tell you. Heads are gonna roll. I tried to tell you. It's chaos. It's a mess. I tried to tell you. And nobody wanted to listen. Do y'all hear me now? Is it clear? I tried to tell y'all. It's getting ugly. It's a mess. I tried to tell y'all. Nobody wanted to listen. And now you see folks scurrying. I tried to tell you. You know how many times I'll say something months in advance, and then it comes to fruition, and then y'all forget I reported. See, they're going to have breaking news like it's news. You know what the news was today? I tried to tell you. But nobody wanted to listen.
In the future, humans will be confined in a people's zoo.
I'll keep you safe and warm in my people's zoo. I'll keep you safe and warm now in my people's zoo. You, yeah, you in my people's zoo. No. I'll keep the cameras on.
I'll keep you warm and safe in my people's zoo.